Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well and thank you for returning to my channel. This video is going to be a little bit long. I did cut it a lot. It was over an hour, but I got it down to almost a little over 30 minutes. So what I'm going to do is use a full tile, and see that line right there? What I did was raise my saw a little bit and give it a groove cut. And that will be in later on when it's grout. So with that groove cut, just get a little bit of sandpaper and just sand the inside of that so the edges are nice and smooth. Just like that. Don't cut it all the way through. And you see how I cut that corners so it'll be nice and tight in the front of that 45. So just grab some cement, butter that tile. Put enough cement on there so you can put a tilt on that. Mind you, that curdy niche, you see the lines in there? I use that as a guide. So you're going to want to make sure that everything is leveled with those guidelines. But before installing your niche, make sure your niche is leveled through and through, top and on the sides, before you screw everything in and then curdy band around the perimeter. So I grabbed these 1/16 spacers and I put them into that 45. So when it comes time for me to grout, the grout will stick inside there. Mind you, you can use levels, tile ledge, but we always do 45s. If you ever use your metals, your tile ledge, when you slide them in, make sure you put a little bit of silicone on the inside of that. Okay, so this is going to be my shelf. I do a very thin shelf. So see how I 45 the one size? Those are rectified. Always use a clean edge of your tile to do the 45s. It's a lot cleaner. So I'm going to grab my 1/16 spacers. I'm going to butter up one tile. And I'm just going to apply those spacers in each of those corners. So I need 4 spacers. Reason why I do that is just gives me a little more of a bump in the tile. So back butter your other tile, put them together, apply pressure. Make sure you apply a lot of pressure on there so you can get it to hit those spacers. So put it against the wall or something, a flat surface, and just apply pressure to make sure that everything's lined up properly. Usually what I do is I'll go in the other room and I'll put my square on a flat surface and I'll butt that up, that shelf, and I'll know that everything is lined up properly. Okay, you see how that is a 45? Stick around and you'll see me cut all that. So hide that piece. Next day, you start filling in the niche. This is where you can either go in the middle, the center, the top, and I'll show you later on what they want to do. They want to go 5 inches from that bottom shelf to the top of that shelf. So this is the next day. Everything's dried. So I'm just going to grab my level, and on that first tile, the tip of it, I'm going to mark a true line on the back of that niche. So there is my first mark, just a little bit underneath that line. That's why I love the curdy niche, because it has the grid lines and it really helps you out. So this was an offcut of that tile, so I set it aside, and you see how that groove, all that lines up? I'm gonna put it on the back side. So your good side of your tile obviously is gonna stick in the center. So just mark one side, the cut side, mark on the inside of that niche. And you're gonna just cut that off, and you're gonna have the good side, the rectified side, the factory side on the top and on the side. And this, you can see, is another cut from the other tile. And you see how the lines line up, or that grain? We're gonna put that on the back side as well. So we're just gonna mark this. And mark that. Remember, the factory side's always gonna be the good side, the cut side on the inside pocket. And then we'll cut that, just make sure your cut is on the inside. That's the good factory side, so that's gonna be up. That's gonna be the cut side, that's gonna be on the shelf. Get your tape measure. They wanna go 5 inches high with the shelf. That will be, just mark the 5 inches. Grab your level. Make sure your bubble is perfect, and mark the other side. And remember, if your levels are dirty, it means you're working hard. If they're clean, it means you're not working hard. So my levels, they get dirty, and that cement product I use, it sticks on there good. Okay, there's my shelf. It's all dried. This is the next day. So remember, guys, be very careful when you put that shelf in there. It's very important. If you hit that 45, you're basically screwed. So I'm just gonna mark that right there. Now I'm gonna grab my level again, and that's gonna be the thickness of my shelf. All right. So what you're gonna do is grab that, hit that mark, and mark it level on the backside. That'll be the bottom mark. That'll be my first side cuts on the back, or the side, sorry. Okay, carefully slide it right in. Be very careful. It's like playing that game Operation when you were a kid. Just take your time. So we're just gonna butt it up against that, and we're just gonna mark. So when we tilt it down, we can avoid our 45s on the inside. Okay, just be very careful and pull it out. There we go. See, that's my 45 on the inside of the tiles there around the curdy box. So we're not going to cut that backside just yet, and you'll see why. So see how that's all cut? And now just test it out first. This takes a lot of patience, guys. I know it takes a long time, and usually I can line up my niche to avoid all those cuts, but because it's in the basement and it's 7-foot ceiling, it's kind of unavoidable. It didn't matter where we put the niche, it just wouldn't line up properly. So just get sandpaper, Wet your surface and just sand all the edges before you start installing your tiles around the niche. So I pre-did all that. Okay, that's my first cut. That's a factory edge on both sides and the cut on the inside. And we're just gonna line up that line on the bottom of the shelf. Grab some cement and back butter your niche. The reason why you do that is because you'll have a good bond. Okay, just back butter your tile. Good factory edge. And just follow that line on the bottom. Now I'm going to use a little bit of wedges just to kick me up just a little bit. You want to give yourself a little bit of a gap. So you kick it up about a 1/16. Put your level on that first line. Make sure you're true. Awesome. And those are the wedges. We're just going to make the adjustment. We're going to lift it up just a little bit to line up that top line. And we're going to make sure that we're going to be on that side line as well. So we can hit that. So everything, that line flows from the bottom, the inside, to the bottom shelf, to that joint on the top. Just grab your tape measure. This here was 3 3/4, and you just measure on the top and the bottom, and you know that you're going to be true. If you have, sorry, they're doing some work up there. It's a little loud. Do the same thing with the other one. If you have a torpedo level, that's always good too. But I'll show you another trick where you can make sure you're leveled. Again, do the same thing here. Okay, so this is a off cut, and that's how I make sure that I use that factory edge to make sure that I'm straight. So just take your measure, 3 3/4, and we're good from top to bottom. That way when you put your sides in, it's a lot easier. You don't have to do like a wedge cut or anything. You want to make sure everything is true and true right around. Inside, the sides, above, top. Okay, so just grab your spacers. Check that one too. You're good. Grab a little piece of cardboard. This always helps. I put one on one side, and I'm going to put one on the other side. And what that does, it applies pressure. It makes everything tight. So when you lay tiles, you don't move anything. It's just, it's very helpful. The cardboard ain't going to do anything. So it's not going to destroy everything. It's all going to be hidden, so it's all good. You see how everything's lined up with the bottom and the inside of the niche? Just grab that piece and just apply pressure so nothing's tilted. Okay, so that's my shelf. Carefully slide that in. you want to tilt your, or turn your 45s on the inside and then mark the edge of that. So you're going to have to cut that back side. This avoids a lot of hassle of cutting everything, so you don't have to go on the inside of that back wall, the niche. You're avoiding as much cuts as you can for something like this. So you see how that's cut on the back side? That will be grouted and silicone at the end. So we're just going to tilt that in there. Be very careful. All right. And there we go. Looks good. Slowly just put that aside. Sometimes I use scrap piece of tile to get my proper measurement. It's a little bit better than a tape measure sometimes, so just mark this on the bottom and on the top, and it's going to be for the inside pocket on the sides of my tiles. It should be, you should make 2 of them, so it should be the same. I believe it was 3 inches and 3/4. Just mark right and left. So see how that's the right. That'll be the bottom. And that's my left side. Okay, so we're just gonna put that tile on the top of that line, and on the bottom of that shelf, we're gonna do that cut right there. Just cut it on a 90, and I'll tell you why. Because we're gonna get ready to put our shelf in, and cut that right off. That's the left side. And this is the right side. Do the same thing here. Join it right up against that line. And cut that off as well. So that's my angle. From the front to the back. So you're gonna have to cut that off as well. And you see how I 45 that as well? So that's my left side. Always use the factory cut on the good part around the face, outer face, and the cut on the back. It's always nice for a 45 to be a nice clean cut. Just going to trim that just a little bit, just so I can get it in there a little bit better for the 45. All right. So we're just going to mark that on the back side. Okay, I'm just gonna shave that cleaner, and then that'll be my angle cut. So I have my angle cut slope for the bottom, and everything's lined up good. So for the shelf, I'm gonna do that first bottom cut on both sides. And that's my right side. I'm gonna do the same thing. So we'll cut those 2 marks, and I'll show you with the X. Okay, keep the top and keep the bottom. Eliminate that between that gap there. It's 1 inch, by the way. Okay, so butter on the inside of that pocket. The reason why you do that is so you have when you back butter your tile, you'll have a very good bond. If you don't back butter, it could fail. So that's my bottom piece so my shelf can sit on it, on top of that. And that's my right side. We're gonna do the same thing. I kind of angle a little bit on the back, kind of make it two-dimensional. So now that's my shelf. Just all you got to do is butter the two ends. Very carefully put that in there. And let that sit on top. You can make the adjustment with those little wedges and then just fill up the gap on the top and on the side. Again, use that scrap piece of tile just to help you get the levelness. Just to level it out, help it out. And just put your spacers in there. Just checking to make sure everything's kind of perfect. And do repeat the same side. You can put the spacers on those 45s, but I've been doing it for so long that I really don't have to do it. I mostly do it just for the top shelf, or I'm sorry, the bottom shelf. Okay, just put your spacers in there and make sure everything's squared up. And you could do the same thing. Just roll up some cardboard and just put it on the sides. Just apply pressure. Okay, so that's the top. You see how I just raised my saw and I 45'd that and I just did a groove cut for a joint line. Did the same thing for the top of the niche. So that's on the inside. Like I said, use your sandpaper and just sand that back and forth so it'll polish it a little bit. It's always good to dip your sandpaper in water as well, just a little bit of water. That helps the abrasive, so. Notch that so you can bypass the 45s. Okay, just make sure you have enough cement in there, and you're just gonna wanna carefully slide that in there, and you're gonna wanna make sure that that backside has a tilt, so when it rains, it'll just slide down, and just put your level on that. Make sure that everything's nice and level. Just take your time, make sure everything's nice and square. Niches like this take a long time. Okay, so that's for the both right and left. That's for the cut for the left side. And you're just going to fill in that gap. And we'll do the same thing on the side. $45. Sometimes you have to play with that top one just a little bit. Just use your factory edge and just apply pressure and make sure that everything's nice, true, and square. Okay. So make sure when you 45, you have the good factory edge of that. That's going to be on the top of that 45 of that shelf. So we're just going to mark this and follow me upstairs, and I'll take you to my saw and I'll show you how I do it. Now this is very tricky, guys, so you can take a chance. If you want to make your shelf a little bit thicker, you can do that, but this takes a little bit of time. So that's my cut, by the way. So I'm just making sure. But you can use a grinder, but sometimes tiles that thin is very fragile, so you have to be really careful with it. Make sure you have your glasses on and your mask. Okay, so this is my saw, my wet saw. So what I do is I'm just gonna raise my blade up a little bit. Not to the point where it's gonna touch the saw. So I'm just gonna make the adjustment. And I'm just gonna tilt this little sliver cut just on an angle, and I'm gonna use both hands. If you do want to take the chance, the attempt of doing it, by all means. The diamond blades, they don't cut you, but they give you a good brush burn. So I've done it a few times. It's not like a saw blade where you can lose your hand or your finger. So don't be dumb that way. But like I said, you can use a grinder. Make sure you have your glasses. You can do that and just be very careful. A lot of guys don't try to make this attempt, so they say it's too thin and they always screw up. But I do it all the time, and I'm a bricklayer, so I have some tricks up my sleeve. And the reason why, I'll tell you something coming up. The reason why my saw does do a 45 if it does tilt, but I want more of a 45 on this, so this is how I do it. And I'll tell you why. So it just goes in that pocket of that shelf a lot easier. So turn your tile around and just be very patient and take your time. You got to make sure you have strong hands for that. Like I said, I'm a bricklayer, so I laid blocks and bricks, and it's nothing to me. But you know what? I have faith in you, and anybody can do it. There's no such thing as I can't. I don't believe in those terms. I don't believe in that word. I really don't. Anybody can do it. It's just patience. You screw up, you try it again. I've screwed up many times in a lot of areas, and I just tried again, and believe it or not, things are just come a lot easier. So just take your time. So I'm just going to shave just a little bit more, just on that tip there. Okay, you see that? See that nice angle cut? But I'm going to want to probably shave just a little bit more to give me more of an angle. Just a little bit more. I like using the wet saw because the water, it helps out a lot. So it makes the cut a lot more cleaner. You see how I have a good angle on that? Not bad, eh? Pretty good. So I'm going to show you something here. When I do my shells, like the bigger portion of everything, I do set my saw down, and I do tilt my wet saw. But for something that small, I have to do it this way, so I can get a deeper 45. Okay, let's go test it out. Hey, not too shabby. All right, there we go. So usually what I do is I just, use my fingers, or you can use your trowel just to put cement in there. And you're going to want to back butter that little piece too, okay? All right. Remember the clean factory edge on the top, the cut on the bottom. Okay, make sure that you're flush with those tiles on both sides. And you can use your 1/16 spacers or your red wedges just to balance everything out on each side of that joint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the time lapse of the Curdy install, the installation of the tile, and me putting the niche in. So I hope you come back. Sorry for the long video. If you feel comfortable, you can make it a temp like this. By all means, try it. If not, I don't blame you. Go with the tile edge. So, like I said, I never put tile edges on my my work on the inside, just on the outside. So, and just clean up everything. Okay, guys, thank you so much, and I hope you have a good day. Bye-bye.